The dining room smelled like rosemary chicken and resentment. I'd driven 3 hours home for Dad's birthday, hoping for warmth, not a battlefield. Clara raised her wine glass. "To Dad," she said brightly. "Your favorite daughter." Everyone laughed except me. Dad smiled, tired but proud. "You're both my girls." Clara smirked. "Oh, come on. We all know who gets the calls first, the advice, the help. I'm the one who shows up." Mom chuckled. "She's not wrong." I felt my cheeks heat. "I show up too, just not every weekend." Clara patted my hand like I was a child. "You're busy, Mara. Saving the world with spreadsheets." I worked as a healthcare data analyst in Raleigh, a job that paid well enough to keep me independent. But here, that independence was treated like arrogance. I forced a smile. Glad someone's keeping score. The table went quiet for a beat, tension coiled. Then Dad coughed, one hand on his chest. At first it sounded like another smoker's cough. Then he gasped, face draining of color. "Dad!" "Shut up!" Clara screamed. Mom froze as he slid sideways off the chair. Dishes clattered to the floor. I grabbed my phone, already calling 911. Clara knelt beside him, sobbing. "Daddy, please stay with me." The dispatcher's calm voice cut through the panic. "Paramedics are on the way." Minutes stretched into forever. I counted his shallow breaths until the sirens came. When they loaded him into the ambulance, Clara clutched Dad's hand. "I'm riding with him," she barked. He nodded. "Go. I'll follow." As the doors closed, Mom whispered, "Thank God Clara was here." The words stung more than she knew. The ER lights buzzed faintly overhead while we waited. After an hour, a cardiologist approached. "Mr. Davis has severe blockage. He'll need immediate bypass surgery." "How much?" Clara asked before Mom could. "Estimate around $85,000 before insurance." Clara straightened. "We'll handle it." The doctor nodded and hurried off. I stared at her. "You have that kind of money?" She lifted her chin. "I'll put it on my credit line. Dad deserves the best." Mom wiped tears. "That's my girl." No one looked at me. I sank into the plastic chair, hands trembling, not from money fear but from being invisible. 2 hours later, while Clara called relatives announcing she was taking care of everything, I stepped outside for air. Her voice carried through the glass door. "Yes, just move the money from the card." "What do you mean declined?" "Try the other one." Froze. She turned her back, voice hissing. "No, I can't let Mara know. She'd love that." I exhaled slowly. So that was the truth. The favorite daughter was bluffing. When I returned inside, she was smiling again, posing for a selfie with Mom. Caption ready. "Doing whatever it takes for Dad's sparkling heart." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I looked at Dad through the ICU window. Pale, unconscious, still my hero. Someone had to keep a promise tonight, even if nobody noticed. At dawn I found the billing office. The clerk blinked at me, surprised. "I'm his daughter," I said quietly. "Put the charges under my account. I'll handle payment." She hesitated. "Your sister already." "She can't." I slid my ID and card forward. "Confidentially, please." By the time the sun rose, the deposit was paid, forms signed, surgery scheduled. When I walked back into the waiting room, Clara was telling Mom, "I got the payment sorted. They'll take Dad in an hour." I sat down, heart pounding, saying nothing. She needed the spotlight, fine. Let her have it. I only cared about Dad surviving. Still, a small voice whispered inside me, "One day the truth will surface." They wheeled Dad into surgery just before sunrise. The hallway smelled of disinfectant and burnt coffee. Clara clung to Mom's arm like a child. "He'll be okay." I told them to give him the best surgeon. I sat quietly with a cup of vending machine cocoa, trying not to think about the figure on the payment screen. Every cent of my emergency fund, gone. 4 hours later the doors opened, and the surgeon smiled. Procedure went smoothly. "He's in recovery." Clara burst into loud tears of relief. Thank you, doctor. You have no idea how much this means to me. To you, I thought. Mom hugged her, saying, You saved him, sweetheart. I smiled faintly. Let them think that. Dad was alive, that was enough. Over the next few days, Clara turned the ICU waiting room into her stage. She updated social media hourly. Day 2, still fighting for my hero. Meanwhile, I fetched prescriptions, arranged physical therapy, filled out insurance claims. At night, I stayed in the uncomfortable chair beside Dad's bed, counting the beeps of the monitor. When he opened his eyes for the first time, his hand brushed mine. You still here, kiddo? Always, I whispered. The next morning, Clara waltzed in with balloons. Daddy, guess who's trending? Our story's inspiring people. He smiled weakly. That's nice. I turned away so she wouldn't see my eyes roll. Fame points for filial duty. Typical Clara. A week later, a hospital clerk approached with a manila envelope. Miss Mara Davis. Oh, sorry, I mean Miss Clara Davis. Clara snatched it. That's me. She opened it halfway before freezing. I glimpsed my own name printed across a receipt. Payment received from Mara Davis, $24,000. Her expression faltered. She stuffed the paper into her purse and forced a smile. What's wrong? Asked. Nothing. Mix-up. But her fingers trembled. The secret had cracked open just a little. That night she didn't post anything. For the first time since surgery, her feed went silent. Dad came home 2 weeks later, frail but grinning. Clara planned a welcome home dinner. Candles, tablecloth, the works. Guests arrived. Neighbors, cousins, co-workers. Everyone toasted Clara. To the daughter who saved her father's life, one aunt said. Clara tilted her head modestly. I just did what any daughter would. Mom dabbed tears. We're so proud. I helped serve dessert, silent. When someone asked about my work, Clara cut in. Oh, she's doing fine. She's good with numbers. Thank God one of us is useful. Laughter. I smiled tightly and poured more coffee. Let her have the crowd. I had the truth, even if no one else saw it yet. 3 days later my phone buzzed mid-meeting. The hospital number flashed again. Ms. Davis, said the finance officer. The next payment installment is due tomorrow. Same card. Yes, I said. Process it. Behind me, Clara's voice snapped through the speaker. Process what? She'd barged into my apartment, phone still to her ear. What are you doing? She demanded. Why is the hospital calling you? I told them to contact me. They must have mixed up records, I lied. Cut it out, Mara. Are you paying those bills? I looked at her calm. Does it matter as long as Dad's cared for? Her eyes narrowed. It matters to me. Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard my picture frames rattled. The storm had begun. I didn't hear from Clara for 2 days. Then she called. Mom's worried, she said coolly. You've been acting strange. Are you trying to make me look bad? Closed my laptop. No. I'm trying to keep Dad alive. You could have told me if you wanted to help. I did tell you. You said you had it handled. She sighed, a tremor under her arrogance. You always have to one-up me, don't you? It's exhausting. Before I could respond, she hung up. I stared at the silent phone, thinking about all the times I'd stepped aside to keep peace. This time I wasn't moving. The family group chat exploded that night. Mom. Mara, what did you say to your sister? Clara. She's undermining me. She's trying to take credit for Dad's care. Mom. Enough fighting. Clara, you've done enough. Mara, stay out of it. I typed, understood, and muted the thread. The next morning, Mom called directly. You know how your sister gets when she feels attacked. Can't you let her have this one? Have what, Mom? The truth. Long pause. You always were the difficult one. Hung up. My hands shook. Not from anger but the ache of recognition. Had always been this way. 2 weeks later, insurance forms arrived at the house. Clara grabbed the mail as usual but froze when she saw her name missing. The envelope was addressed to Mara Davis, primary guarantor. She ripped it open, eyes darting across the paperwork, reading each line that proved she hadn't paid a cent. When she came to the hospital, her lipstick was smudged, her composure cracking. "Dad," she said sweetly, "how are you feeling?" He smiled. "Better every day." She tucked the papers back into her purse and fled. That night I knew. The mask had shattered. Dad called me the next morning. "Mara," he said softly, "I saw the billing statements. Your name's on every payment." I hesitated. I didn't want credit. I just wanted you well. He was silent for a long moment. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it shouldn't matter who paid. It matters that you're alive." His voice trembled. "Your sister told everyone she handled it." "I know." He sighed, the weight of realization pressing through the phone. "Come by tomorrow, please." For the first time, there was no distance in his tone, only sorrow and gratitude mingled together. The next day I arrived to find Clara pacing the living room, eyes red. Dad sat in his recliner, pale but resolute. "Sit," he said. Clara sank onto the couch, arms crossed. "I know everything," he began quietly. "About who paid, who didn't, and who lied." "Dad." "Enough. You lied to me, Clara. To your mother. To everyone." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I just wanted to be enough. You always loved her more." Blink. "What?" Dad looked between us, devastated. "That's not true." Clara stood abruptly and stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell from the wall. The sound echoed like thunder. A week later, Dad asked both of us to meet him at his lawyer's office. The air was thick with unspoken tension. His lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Davis has updated his estate plan." Clara's head snapped up. Dad's voice was steady. "This isn't about money, it's about fairness. Both of you will inherit equally. But more than that, I want the record to show who saved my life." He turned to me. "Thank you, Mara. I can never repay what you did." Clara's mouth tightened. "This is humiliating." Dad's eyes were firm. "Truth often is." Word spread fast. Relatives called, whispering gossip. Clara lied about paying. After all that bragging, Mom confronted me in tears. "How could you let this go public? You've embarrassed your sister." "I didn't say a word," I said. "Dad told the truth." She wiped her eyes angrily. "He's old and confused. You manipulated him." There it was again, the reflex to blame me. "I'm done defending myself, Mom. You're tearing this family apart." "No," I said quietly. "I'm refusing to be torn apart anymore." Clara vanished from social media. Her post stopped. The perfect image world she'd built crumbled. One afternoon, I saw her at the pharmacy, dressed down, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She noticed me and froze. "How's Dad?" "Yes." She hesitated. "Fine. You win." This wasn't a competition. "Everything with you is." Before I could answer, she walked away, leaving a faint smell of expensive perfume and regret. I realized she wasn't angry anymore. Just broken. Weeks turned into months. Dad's strength returned. He began taking walks again. I visited often, cooked dinner, listened to him talk about fishing trips we'd never taken. Sometimes, when he thought I wasn't watching, he'd just stare at me like he was trying to memorize my face. "I wish I'd seen you sooner," he said once. "You did, Dad," I answered softly. "You just didn't know it." He squeezed my hand. "Not anymore. I know it now." That night, I drove home feeling lighter than I had in years. It was late November when the doorbell rang. Clara stood there, shivering in a thin coat. Her eyes were rimmed with red. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. I stepped aside. "Come in." She sat at my kitchen table, staring at her hands. "Everything's falling apart. Creditors. Rent. Mom won't talk to me since Dad changed the will." I poured tea and waited. She looked up, voice breaking. Why didn't you tell me you were paying? I would have helped. You couldn't, I said gently. And that's okay. Tears spilled again. I was jealous. I thought if I looked perfect, they'd love me more. They already did, I whispered. You just couldn't see it. For an hour she talked, about debts, expectations, exhaustion. When she finally stopped, silence filled the room. I'm sorry, she said, voice raw. For the lies. For everything. I studied her face. She wasn't performing now, she was human. I forgive you, I said. Her eyes widened. You do. Yes. But forgiveness isn't permission to hurt me again. I won't. I swear. We sat there holding hands, two women who'd spent their lives competing for the same invisible approval, finally realizing it was never a prize worth winning. Dad invited us both for Christmas dinner. The house smelled of cinnamon and pine, but the mood was fragile. Clara brought homemade cookies. Mom hovered, unsure how to act. When we sat to eat, Dad raised his glass. To honesty, he said simply. And to starting over. Clara's eyes met mine. To starting over. Mom forced a smile, whispering, I just want peace. So do I said, meaning it. For the first time in years, dinner ended without a single argument. Small steps, I thought. Small but real. Spring arrived. Dad's checkup was perfect. His color back, his laugh easier. One Sunday he called me to the porch. You know I sold that old property upstate, he said. Used the money to pay off your loan. Dad. He raised a hand. I'm not repaying debt. I'm honoring gratitude. You gave me time. That's priceless. I hugged him, feeling tears sting. Don't let this world make you hard, Mara, he murmured. It tried with me. I nodded, heart full. For once, I didn't feel like the outsider daughter. I just felt seen. Months passed, and Clara slowly rebuilt. She got a modest job, moved into a small apartment near Dad, and stopped pretending life was perfect. Sometimes she'd call just to talk. Not to compete, not to boast. I started therapy, she told me one night. Turns out, trying to be the favorite is exhausting. I laughed softly. Yeah, I could have told you that. She hesitated. Thank you for still being here. Always, I said. Family doesn't mean perfection. It just means we keep trying. She cried quietly. Felt like the sound of healing. A year after Dad's surgery, we gathered again for his birthday. The same dining room, the same rosemary chicken, but a different air. Dad looked healthy, smiling between us. My girls, he said, eyes shining. You both saved me, one with money, one with forgiveness. Clara laughed through tears. I'll take that. I glanced at her and smiled. We'd both grown up in ways the other never expected. After dinner I stepped onto the porch. The night smelled of salt and rain. I thought of the bills, the lies, the silence, and how truth had set all of us free. Sometimes love isn't about who's the favorite. It's about who stays standing when everything else falls apart. And for the first time I didn't need to be anyone's favorite. I was finally my own.